I like what Benson Olivia said. I don't know if Benson Olivia is a woman, but I'm going to say she. She said you have to be sleep to enjoy the American dream. And I know that's kind of cliche, but it's really true. If you think that we're not up against the fight of our life inside of America, then you're not. You're definitely asleep. Um, and I agree with what you're saying, Nick. It really is a point where we have to wake up to the realities around us and see beyond the propaganda that we've been sold. And that's a difficult thing. Like just admitting, here's what you have to admit, and you have to get other people to admit. Two things. One, you have to get them to admit that our party, or the party that closest aligns with us, is most of the time just as bad as any other party. We have to stop fooling ourselves into thinking they're evil and we're good. That's a false narrative. They're evil and we're probably just as evil, but just maybe 10% less on social issues. We have problems just like them. Once you think about that and realize that, then you start realizing that you've been fed a lot of propaganda even on our side of the aisle. We think Republicans are the only ones who are victims of propaganda. No. Democrats are probably the best propagandized group of people in anywhere in the world.
How often have you heard people say, we don't understand why people vote against their own interests. Oh, man, those poor people over there, they're just voting against their own interests.
Yep, and we're doing the same exact thing.
Exactly.
And we don't think we are.
Go ahead with your thought, because I just had to bring that up.
The second thought is this. A lot of people are talking about if we had just won the black vote, right? If we had just got 40% of the black vote. Here's the problem. We were never going to get more than 20 or 30, whatever we broke. I think he got to 30%. We were never going to get more than that in terms of the active voting black population. But there are more black people who are not voting than those that are voting, and those that are not voting, they're not voting because they believe exactly like you believe, that this system is broken, that this system is a plutocracy, and that voting doesn't make a difference. And all we had to do was change their minds about that third thing, that voting doesn't make a difference, because it could have made a difference this time around. Long story short, too long didn't read. We should have reached out to an entirely different group of black people than those
exactly
vote on a
yes.
Earlier on. The propaganda is so strong. You're trying to overcome that, and to be honest with you, I actually believe that when they saw his platform, that they would be, excuse me, when I say they, I meant we, when our people saw his platform, that there would be like a natural half that would say, hey, this platform is really good. This is what we've been asking for. This is what we've been complaining about for a long time. And I figured he would pick up support. And believe it or not, other groups actually were able to do that, at least in a half number, and then the working white class went in all the way. So, and I'm not trying to use their narrative. I'm just explaining to you, with them being 70% of the voting population or so, you can't win an election without that. So I don't even know why it's a narrative to say, well, he's only supported by white people. Everybody's only supported by white people. That's the majority.
But that is very true, quite honestly. When they say like he only wins white states, America's predominantly white. So if a candidate can't win white states, we're in trouble. I mean, truthfully. Yeah. But I reject this focus, this hyper focus on the black vote. Yes, the black vote. I mean, when you focus on anyone in particular subgrouping like that, percentage-wise, the black vote and the Latino vote are similar statistically in terms of like their makeup and overall electoral politics. I think that everyone's like, if only Bernie got more of the black vote. I mean, quite honestly, you need to figure out what your strengths are and make sure you turn those people out. It's not just black voters not voting for Bernie that has done it. White voters, quote unquote, are not showing up either. Voter turnout in New York was the second lowest of the season behind Louisiana. You had voter turnout in South Carolina. The white voter turnout was 50% in 2016, what it was in 2008. So if several thousand more white voters in South Carolina turned out and voted for Bernie, you would have had a different story. You had white voters here in Georgia who were Democrats who instead voted for Trump. So we're not going to, I continue to reject this narrative because I've seen that in the chat room now and I've seen it on posts otherwise. I reject the narrative that the black vote is a problem. Does Bernie have a problem connecting with black voters? I will say yes and no. like you said, Ben, the campaign spent their time reaching out to the wrong types of people. You
Yep.
spend your time trying to reach out to establishment types who are tied to, going and speaking to the NAACP and, the Urban League and the CBC and those people who are tied to the establishment.
Yep.
When you're railing against the establishment, you're railing against the people who donate to these folks.
Yep.
They're not going to welcome you with open arms. But if you go to various
Mhm.
community groups, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be succinct.
Mhm.
If you figure out a way and you welcome and open in grassroots leadership earlier on, then you're able to build a coalition. Because nobody likes you showing up 3 weeks before the vote talking about something. I'm your friend, come hang with me.
Yeah.
To,
I was gonna say, damn it, I think I lost my train of thought. You were talking about the black vote and Bernie Sanders getting the black vote, and I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Nick.
Okay, what I was also gonna say is, to me, it woke up the realization that people don't vote based on policy or issues. Like they vote based on like some kind of emotional connection or a shared identity or something along those lines more than they actually vote based on issues. And it's mostly because they don't know, what policy positions will do and what how that affects their everyday life. That's just the bottom line, and that's just a lack of education, really. I'm not gonna lie to you. It sounds horrible, but that's what it is, and that's not specific to just a race, though. That's specific to the voter as a whole.
I don't think it's a lack of education. There was a study with there's a survey of Trump supporters, right? They're actually, well, I mean, our narrative is always that Trump supporters are, whatever. But there's stuff just like with Hillary supporters, they're actually very educated people supporting them, black, white, Latino, whoever. They're very, very educated, well versed. There's some very educated black Hillary supporters that are spending a lot of time trying to convince the rest of us that economics is not a person of color issue. Right? And why is that? Because, people need to, in the current system we have, people need people under them to maintain their position there in the hierarchy, right? I mean, we're looking at the capitalist structure in the hierarchy. We need people beneath us. And how do I keep you beneath me? I convince you that you have this other issue so that you won't pay attention to the fact that my foot is on your neck.
But Noah, how does that type of propaganda actually take root? It takes root because you don't know they're telling you a lie. It's not
possible
that they don't
if
tell
you
me, know.
It's not that I don't. It's not that I don't know that you're telling me a lie. It's just that there are a lot of people there are people like if I'm actually struggling financially, you telling me that finances is not my issue, I'm not going to believe you because I'm not educated. But if you're telling me that this other race issue, that race is my issue and it's only one person, because I think in this instance,
the power of identity politics, man.
Right, because in this instance, right, Hillary comes out the gate swinging. She knows exactly what to say. She already has the people lined up. Don't believe her when she's like, oh, I wasn't really going to run. I just decided. They had already been greasing palms and stuff for years to pave the way because there's no other way she could have came back from the debacle that was 2008 without greasing palms and making amends with people coming forward.
Noah, we should have known from her first speech. Her first speech was about criminal justice and the plight of African Americans.
Well, even before that, Bill Clinton staged that apology that he clearly doesn't mean.
We should have known, like we weren't organized as much as we are now. We're not half as organized now as we need to be next year. But we should have known right then what the play was going to be. But I know one thing: we know now. We know now there can't be, and thankfully, there's not going to be a Chelsea Clinton running for office. If Hillary Clinton, here's the best thing that could come out of a Hillary Clinton campaign: win. That would be the last Clinton in office for our lifetime. There won't be another Clinton. So if we got to get it out of the way, then damn it, get out of the way and use that time to organize and master the anecdote to all of the games they played this time around.